golfj.com.
Hey everybody, Jim Sinicropi here for another edition of the Golf J podcast on FingerLakes1.tv. I'm Jim. I'm alongside Rhett Ticconi and Doug Brown here in the FingerLakes1.com studios in Seneca Falls, New York on Monday, April 10th, 2017. And the Masters just doesn't ever disappoint. And this year, of course, no different. And no, we don't have Sergio Garcia in studio with us. That's actually Rhett Ticconi behind major champion Sergio Garcia. And, you know, fellas, right up until that putt went in, I still didn't believe that I thought he might blow it in some spectacular way, maybe even 3-putt in the playoff there. But it's true. It's almost surreal to talk about that Sergio is a major champion. Like, it's over.
It's something to behold. I mean, after,
Turn around talking to the mic.
I'll talk. A huge monkey off his back right after many years.
There we go.
And some sad losses that he's had over the years.
Some heartbreakers.
Yeah. Finally came through because he's had some putts to win before that didn't quite work out. So.
Yeah, and, just for so long, because he won low amateur there, and at that point you're like, he's in a succession with Olazabal and Ballesteros. It's going to be Sergio, and it was always not a matter of when, but how many majors. Right. And here we are so many years later.
They were talking about a 20-year rivalry with Tiger.
Yeah, right.
About give or take the same age.
Yep.
There was some thought probably back at the beginning maybe Sergio would be better than Tiger.
Yeah, there definitely was talk of that. And he had success not only at Augusta that year, but, that was the year of the PGA. And they went head-to-head, basically.
That's right.
And some success winning a few tournaments early on. And he just figured that was going to be a no-brainer. And then he goes early on into the Ryder Cup and just absolutely crushes it there. And so to sit here and 17 years later and say that, wow, it's the first time. And for the last 5 to 10 years, really saying that he had no chance at winning this tournament.
He's had some good highs, but he's had some awful lows. And there was one time I think he volunteered to be an assistant captain of a Ryder Cup team. Yep. It looked like he was kind of giving up.
Yeah.
It wasn't that long ago, maybe 4 years ago with the Ryder Cup.
It was 2 weeks ago that he hit one of the worst shots ever seen on a PGA Tour event when the club kind of slipped out of his hand. He hit in the water. Remember that? Yeah. And now 2 weeks later he wins his first major. But I'll tell you this, that the thing about golf that's just so incredible is this was a storyline 20 years in the making, Yep. It's like it's just like watching a feature film. It's 20 years long, and finally you get to the ending.
Yep.
No other sport can really have storylines like that span decades. And you can talk about the connection with being Ballesteros 60th, and the last time a player won the Masters while eagling a hole on the back nine on Sunday was Jose Maria.
Yeah. Right.
And so you add all that stuff in there, and golf consistently provides these scripts that you just can't write over decades, and most of them, the real good stories, play out at Augusta.
Absolutely.
Augusta never disappoints.
Yes.
There's so much theater in the back 9 holes on a Sunday afternoon. Leaderboard changing all around, or in this case, the last 4 or 5 holes focused on 2 guys, and the back and forth of 2 guys.
You had a decent push from a couple other guys early in that side. Schwartzel did well, and Kuchar eagle in 16 with the ace.
Kind of got him back in.
Yeah, he was right there, and then you had some disappointments too with Spieth and Fowler kind of fading away fairly quickly on Sunday, which kind of stung for viewers. But at the end of the day, the story was great. Justin Rose was a great competitor and
very gracious
runner-up.
I like the sportsmanship too. I mean, they were high-fiving each other and tap each other. You can't make that up. That was sincere.
Little European connection there.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, another feather in the cap for golf.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You don't see that in any other sport, encouraging your opponent when there's so much at stake. Sergio Garcia trying to win a major for the first time in his career, and Justin Rose had never won a green jacket, and that was a crushing loss for Rose, in addition to a great victory for Sergio. and I'm sure Justin Rose feels like he'll be back, but you never know. Never know. That could have been his best chance to win a green jacket, and it's just the theater is just unbelievable. And you go back to 13, Sergio has to take a penalty stroke hidden in the woods, and at that point you're like, there he goes. I think like 6 times this weekend I said, well, Sergio's done.
Yeah,
Sergio's done. And in years past he probably would have been because of his temperament.
Right.
But and it might be that he's engaged to be married. Maybe that's the difference. Right. But there's something different about his anger levels are lower. He's more comfortable, and he said that himself. But yeah, he came back multiple times from bad circumstances.
You could see his a difference in his demeanor last year at the Ryder Cup. Mm-hmm. Kind of after it was a great win by the U.S., but in the European press conference, he was pretty funny with some of the remarks that he made, and wasn't upset, and just kind of you could tell there's something better about him, and maybe it is that he's engaged and he's about to be married, and just has gone through the wars and had some really good ups and some really bad downs, and has just kind of gotten to a place where he's comfortable in his own skin, and no matter what happens, he's going to just go out there and play, and that's what he did this weekend for sure. I mean, it could have been a disaster. Was it Friday where they thought he had a 7? And and
but that was just a marker error, wasn't it? That wasn't.
There was no controversy.
I don't know. I don't know if he even knew about it at the time, but
right.
Imagine if something like that happened. But
he jumped up the leaderboard real fast there, didn't he, when he fixed it?
Yeah, he did. Yeah. He did. So
I thought the same thing on 13. I thought, here comes another real disappointing defeat.
Yeah.
That the press is going to just beat him up for it, and maybe he never surfaces again.
Yeah.
But to his credit, great save for par.
Yeah.
On 13, and then Rose made par as well, so that he didn't give up any shots.
Yeah, it could have been a 4-shot swing.
I think
birdie and a bogey.
Before whatever he's found to make the glass half full, he probably would have mailed it in more. Made 5 bogeys on the way in or something like that, and finished 20th place.
Oh, and he missed that putt on 18 too, for the win right there.
Oh yeah, he said he thought it broke left. Look, it doesn't break that far left.
No.
He missed that 2 inches to the right.
Well, and all that Faldo said it. He goes, they all think the same thing, that it's going to be straight, and it always goes.
Yeah, actually went right.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think part of it is that Sergio resigned to the fact that he may not win a major, and he was okay with that.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, now the pressure's off a little bit. But yeah, just by random chance, it could have not happened for him yesterday, but it finally did. It's kind of, you go to the well so many times, eventually the ball's going to kick your way, and it did when Rose, was in the pine straw off the tee in the playoff, and then the other thing, that second shot that Rose hit during the playoff was a terrible shot. The announcers didn't really say much because but that was a half shank, right?
Yeah, I expect him to at least get it up there, 20 feet off the front edge.
Yeah.
But he was, 5 steps in front of Sergio, who had about 145 yards or so, I'd guess, and I thought it was awful too.
Yeah, and the announcers didn't react, didn't make you realize how bad that was.
Yeah.
He barely got off the ground, and it looked like a half shank almost, and I think he was kind of relieved that it ended up being in the fairway at least, but I expected him to get it right down there, a little low, shooting.
There were several guys over there earlier in the day that got it up there around that bunker.
Right.
Which is about 20, 30 feet off the front edge.
Easier up and down.
Yeah.
Which did Sergio kind of, I don't want to say backed into it because you don't back into a major title, but had Rose made the par before Sergio had to putt for birdie, I think we might have been going to another playoff hole maybe.
Right.
True. So it was...
That's a lot easier to putt on 18 when you can nurse it down there to 2-putt, especially when you got a downhiller and you got a 2-putt. It's a lot easier.
Yeah.
Get a little tippy-tap and let it feed. And it barely fell in the edge.
Right. I didn't want to see, I don't know what I wanted to see. I was rooting for Garcia, but I was also just wondering if something horrible would happen.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't mind to see him with like a little 2-footer, like a little Scott Hoke length putt.
Yeah.
And see what happens.
He was having trouble keeping that putter face square in that slow motion part.
Yeah.
I don't think he wanted any part of anything longer than 2 inches.
No,
Which,
definitely not.
16...
Yeah.
They both stick it in there, and this is coming off the eagle, and it was and I think Rose did make birdie there as well. So, I mean, these guys are both, like, in the zone. They both hit those shots in 16. Rose makes that putt. Sergio misses. Nobody's beating Rose today. Sergio,
and then he goes on 17 and bogeys that one and hits it in the trap.
Yeah, and that's the one I think he would really like to have back. That if he could just make par there, he probably wins.
Yeah. With Sergio putting, he kind of steered that one on 16 for sure.
Sure did.
And he definitely misread that one on 18. But I thought one of the things that really played in his favor coming down the stretch was he had those full 8 irons into 15. I think he even had one on 14 and 17, and then on 18. So he had the same club, and he was just grooving that. He hit that tight on 16 or 15, 16, 17, and 18. He had that same shot.
Didn't have 30 feet all added up with all those holes.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of 5-footers.
Exactly. So I think that definitely where he didn't have to make any long ones to keep going or to tie him. He was kind of always right there. Yeah. Once he stayed with him. He was down after 16, but he caught him on 15. Stayed down on 16, but then he got it back. Just having that ability to hit that same shot full swing. I think that helped quite a bit with taking his mind off the putting a little bit.
Yeah, the looking at that shot into 15, it was such a great shot, but again, I just can't get over like how fine a line it is between winning your first major and not. Yeah. And you've seen shots before that hit the pin, great shots right there that just if it hit it more square, it comes right back into the water.
Yes.
It just hits so. Somebody was looking out for Sergio, I think, a little bit there. But it was also a little disconcerting as an American golf fan to see 2 Europeans, especially after Willett wins last year. Yep. Now 2 Europeans have won back-to-back, but not an American to be found come late Sunday. Right. I mean, and Thomas Peters was probably and Charles Schwartzel made a run. Now Kuchar made that ace on 16, but it was right down through the top 6, you had 5 European, Schwartz was a South African, and then 4 Europeans and Kuchar, who just snuck in there by making an ace on 16. So we may have won the Ryder Cup this year, but that doesn't put to bed any of the talk that maybe the Europeans are stronger golfers. But one of the things that lessens the rivalry, I think, is that all these guys play on the PGA Tour.
Yes, they do.
It's not like they're playing on the European Tour. Peters does, though.
Right.
Yeah, Peters just got special exemption to play on tour.
On the PGA?
Yeah, because of his record recently. He's now a member of the PGA Tour. I think just this past week it happened.
Will he go back and forth, or is he?
I bet he goes back and forth, but he doesn't have to worry about qualifying and all that. So if he wants to play an event, he can play.
They're just going to use all these guys are just going to use the European Tour to be eligible for the Ryder Cup.
Sure.
Right.
I don't think that if it wasn't for that, they might not play at all. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean,
for a while they weren't. Donald and Westwood played here. Actually, kind of when Paul Casey has denounced the tour to play here. So
he didn't even play. He didn't even care that he couldn't play in the Ryder Cup.
Yeah.
Totally blew it off.
So does Sergio? Is he in the Hall of Fame? Is he a Hall of Famer now? He got 13 European Tour wins, 10 on the PGA Tour, a Masters victory, a Players' Championship, and he's well known as being a stellar Ryder Cup player. So is that enough? I mean, I'm going to vote yes. He's got a better resume right now with that Masters win than some guys in the Hall of Fame.
I say no question.
Yeah.
What he's done alone at the Ryder Cup
Yeah.
Gets him in the Hall of Fame in my book. I mean, yeah, he's got some sizable wins on tour as well. I mean, like you said, the Players. He's won a couple of what is it? It used to be the AT&T National. Played at Congressional. I know he won that once. I think it's Tigers tournament, but he's won some bigger tournaments on tour. Right. And has he been an Order of Merit guy on the?
I don't believe so. I
think he's played enough.
He plays here more than anything,
but the Ryder Cup for me had him already. And
yeah, we tend to forget about the European Tour overall. And he's got 13 wins there in probably a limited schedule compared to the U.S. schedule. So I think because it's a World Golf Hall of Fame, his overall credentials easily get him into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
As soon as his eligibility, based on age, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'll be just 4 more years. I heard somebody say before he'll be eligible.
Yeah.
40, I think it is.
I think he's in the first year.
Well, on the emotional side of things for Sergio, I think everybody felt it's funny because he was beloved as a teen here in America, then hated.
Yeah.
Some people accuse him of being racist. So everybody knew he was a bit of a spoiled brat, kind of, and he didn't do anything to endear the American fans or the European fans in a lot of cases.
Right.
Wasn't very universally well liked, but he's evolved to the point now where they were chanting Sergio at Augusta.
Yeah.
And so it's pretty neat to see. But I also was really struck by some of the amazing images of that final putt on 18. And one of the best was they had the camera where he was down, and you saw the people behind him and the people in front of him, and everybody was just so happy.
Yeah.
And it was just the scene was amazing. Seeing the people's faces in the crowd, I guess. I don't know. I thought it was one of the best, maybe one of the best 18th hole finishes at the Masters since maybe Nicklaus in '86. I thought it was really just outstanding. Maybe when Tiger won it and blew the field away, but there was something. It was just electric.
Phil's first one was a good one as well.
That was a good one.
Phil jumped 1 inch. He jumped. It was pretty good. But there's a lot more camera angles this week than there was used back in some of those events.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different angles which were better.
That could be part of it because I just couldn't take my eyes off the screen.
But it was compelling, and I think 95% of the people in that crowd were pulling for Sergio.
Yeah, it's one of the things with the Masters. You've been there, seen it. That nobody boos anybody at the Masters. That's just it's not the cool thing to do. And Sergio at the U.S. Open at Bethpage was totally. Booed.
He had some problems.
He had some issues, and he got booed on basically every shot, every swing. But I think they were genuinely behind him because he's paid his dues. He's been through it all, and he's kind of come full circle back to when we liked him as a 19-year-old kid.
I think in the U.S. this is an extremely popular win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah,
no doubt. And I think even if you went back, maybe even 7-8 years ago, it wouldn't have been.
No,
maybe even 2 or 3.
You're right. You're right.
Well, about 5 years ago, he and Tiger had the dust up at the Players' Championship. And that everybody was in Tiger's corner at that time.
Yeah, he seemed to go after Tiger more than anybody else.
Sure,
because he made a comment about him at Bethpage about if Tiger Woods was playing, they would have blown the horn, so the play would have been suspended.
Right
at one time.
And it just seemed petty and jealous.
Yeah,
really, it's what it seemed like.
Gave a couple of gestures to the crowd, which never endears you if you the New York crowd.
No, definitely not.
But that's really gone 180 degrees, and he's really turned things around with the crowd.
So Sergio could win multiple majors at this point.
Sure.
First one's
he's
toughest.
A ball striker.
Yeah.
True and true. Always has been. Right.
And it seems like he got that monkey off his back now. He's freewheeling. Next time he's in contention, he's not going to.
Yeah.
He's going to care.
But won the first year that he got one finally.
Mickelson after he won his first.
Done very well since he got the first one after a long time.
Yep. Yeah, just a whole different attitude and outlook at it. You're not scared for sure. You're going to be a little nervous, but not anywhere near what you were before.
Yeah, it would seem there's not as much riding on it,
right?
Because you've had done it before once.
Yeah,
I don't think we're going to consider this guy a one and done. Maybe 5 years from now we might, but right now we're not going to.
Especially now when Freddie Couples is contending at 57.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Love it,
and I think that. And I want to talk about, we'll talk about Couples in a second here. There's so many storylines at Augusta this year, and I think we got to start with Justin Rose. He'll have more chances to win a green jacket, and with a U.S. Open trophy in the case and an Olympic gold medal, he's got a great career going, but right now he's somewhere in this world, and he's probably still hurting. He's still hurting, maybe worse than yesterday, because I think even he was a little happy for Sergio. But at some point, he's just got to think, man, I really let that one slip away with that tee shot on 18 and the bogey on 17.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably more so in 17.
Yeah, 17. He had everything.
I think the playoff doesn't happen.
He was in control all the way at that point.
One shot lead with 2 to go.
Yeah, I mean, and Sergio's got the putts that he had to make. They ended up going into a playoff.
Yeah,
he would have needed that to win.
Right.
If Rose just pars 17.
And 17 and 18 are 2 of the more docile holes there overall. There's no water. There's no mystique. Not that they can't make bogeys on them, but
seems like that 17 though is one that gets a lot of guys that are right there.
They lose their concentration. They finally get through the tough spot and they go, and then they.
And it seems like so much emotion comes out of 16.
Yeah.
Where so many big things have happened at 15 and 16. You just get all fired up.
Yeah.
And then they hit it dead left or push it right. And
the 17, 18 are tough driving holes.
Yes, they are.
Absolutely.
So that's the one thing.
Toughest.
And you can't really tell from watching on TV exactly how difficult they really are.
Right.
Especially 18, that shoot. I think if we were standing up there, we'd have trouble hitting that shoot.
It's about as wide as this office.
Yeah.
Okay.
And on 17, you got to carry that bunker no matter where you're hitting from. That bunker comes right into play, and they put that pin pretty close to it. So it's that's nerve-wracking as well, especially if you don't have a good lie coming out of there.
Right.
And there's that false front on the right side. So I think in 05 when Tiger won, he bogeyed the last 2 holes, and he had a just terrible drive on 17, and he hit the false front and came back.
Yeah, he did.
He made a mess of that, and so it just seems like that hole is simple, as straightforward as it is. Just grabs him,
Well, Justin Rose entered this week with more birdies or eagles at Augusta than any other player since 2012. He had 21 birdies this week, which were 2 more than anybody else in the field. His Masters record includes 4 top 10 finishes since 2012 and only 1 finish outside the top 25 in 11 trips since 2004. So he's quietly become a perennial favorite at Augusta. And I think I didn't even really realize it till this year, but he's one of those guys that you got to pick on your team every year now. Yeah. Come Masters time, because the course is suited and the track record shows it. So another guy, and the other thing about Sergio is moving on to Dustin Johnson, but Dustin Johnson if Dustin Johnson played, maybe Sergio doesn't have his first major. I mean, that's a big stretch because there's dozens of other world-class golfers that Sergio beat, but Dustin was really peaking, and then he slips on the stairs, and if the par 3 didn't get rained out for the first time since 1960, since its inception, he plays in the Masters because he would have been at the par 3, not slipping down the stairs at home in his socks.
Right.
Or, in the back of my mind, I got to wonder if, there wasn't a little Tiger, Ellen Nordegren, that they're keeping quiet,
wonder.
Total speculation. We like to do that on the podcast.
You heard it here first.
But DJ already favorited for the U.S. Open. He's already the early favorite without even playing at the Masters. But that was crazy. That was crazy.
He's been snake bit one way or another,
right?
Whether it's his play or now you're missing for some fluke accident. The guy's always got something happening to him to hold him back a little bit. I mean, just think how many majors he could, not say should, because you never know. Like you said, you never know what happened. But I mean, he could have 5 majors right now if things went his way a little bit more.
Maybe the karma said you can have Paulina Gretzky, but
you can have 1 major and Paulina Gretzky. I might take that.
Yeah.
U.S. Open at Oakmont, that's not a bad one.
So now let's talk about Freddie Couples, because he's next on my list here. On the 25th anniversary of his Masters win, the only major he ever won.
Right.
Yep.
For a guy who is revered as one of the all-time greats, probably got one of the worst resumes. But it just goes along to show you how much charisma can go in terms of the way you're perceived in the media. He was in the mix. He was really right there, and a couple putts here and there could have even put him atop the leaderboard after 2.
Yeah.
And in the part of the third round with 74-72, over the weekend. Nobody expected him to, but after seeing Watson at the British Open a few years ago, anything's possible, and seeing Freddie just strolling through Augusta making birdies, you kind of hoped that he'd be in the mix, but
he's always at ease at that place.
And that would have been great for television, great for golf. even though he's getting older on the American side, I'm not sure if there's a more popular American player overall if he's on TV.
Yeah.
Right? Because he's cool.
Yeah.
He speaks to everybody. He's kind of like this generation's Arnold Palmer in a sense, because everybody likes the guy.
He doesn't look much different.
No.
He really,
Just the hair and color.
Yeah, if he dyed his hair, you'd think it was 25 years ago.
But he's got a swing that lasts forever.
Right.
Still boom boom.
Back that might not.
Yeah.
But in a putting stroke, that's always a little bit suspect.
I think
but
that's
he's
really
got enough power.
Even at 57, enough power to hang with these guys.
And a golf course that he knows very well.
Yeah. I don't
but
think
he can reach those par fives.
He's not going to go to Erin Hills and win there.
No.
I mean, he's not even going to be in the field, but
no.
Yeah, Augusta certainly. And I think that's really the only thing he cares about at this point. As far as competitive golf, I think he really just tries to get things in order so he can give it a go.
Yeah.
At Augusta.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you're right, because we really don't see him at the other majors because he only won the Masters. And for all those times you've seen Tom and Jack and Arnie playing all these years because they won multiple ones, and Freddie has as much popularity, if not more, of some of those guys. Definitely more popular than Tom. And, has 1/10 the career that Tom had.
Yeah.
So we're kind of haven't gotten to see him as much as we'd like to.
Yeah.
So it's always nice to see him do well at the Masters because that's really one of the few opportunities you get to see him unless you're watching.
Yeah, he's just he'd be a fun guy to hang around with. He should do those commercials of the coolest man in the world. What's it that?
Oh, most interesting.
That's the one.
Oh,
yeah.
he would be.
That's what he should be, right?
He'd be good for that.
We're marketing him here now.
You should be his agent.
Yeah.
Now, Spieth and Fowler, all week long, you're thinking one of these guys might win. Well, not all week long. Spieth made a quadruple bogey in round one, then comes bouncing back. But some point during the day Saturday, it seemed like, Spieth versus Fowler, here we go. It's going to be one of these two guys. And they get paired together in the second to last group, which is a lot of times easier than the final group.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think all the time it's easier than the final group. And they're friends, and it just seemed perfect. And they both went out and played like crap. Yeah. And I think that they fed off of each other's poor play.
They were stiff. You could tell they were both, they weren't freewheeling it and having a good time like you would think two buddies.
Like Rose and Garcia were in an even more pressure-packed situation.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, those two guys are good friends. You would think that they would definitely calm each other down and just go out there and play and shoot a good number. I mean, the conditions were perfect. There was really, for as good as they are, there was no reason for them to shoot as bad as they did.
76 for Fowler, and a Spieth shoot 74?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that was really, really disappointing because and that happens a lot where you look at the leaderboard early Sunday morning and you're like, this could be incredible. There's going to be 5 guys coming down the stretch, Spieth, Fowler, Sergio, and Justin Rose, and it never works out that way. I was
hoping for we said Spieth shot 75, and I was hoping Ryan Moore too.
He was another American that thought was primed to do something. Yeah. Spieth was my pick, and I thought I had it until he started 5 over on the front 9 on Sunday. Heading into the round Sunday, I thought Spieth was going to go do what he usually does at Augusta and end up winning the Masters. Would have put a lot of money on that, but not even close. Another ball in the water too on Sunday on 12.
Yeah, I don't think he's over that hole yet.
No, some demons there.
Maybe even worse now.
Okay.
Right.
Going back to picks though, Jim, I believe. Do you have it written down from what we picked last week?
Yeah, I was going to talk about for our HBC or RBC Heritage picks.
All right,
you went Sergio McIlroy Day.
That's right.
I went DJ Spieth Rahm.
All right.
So I was done before it even started. Well, not really. I guess Spieth could have won, or Rahm. And Brownie went Stenson, Justin Thomas, and who was the other guy? Matsuyama.
Yeah. Doug, I think I remember him kind of chuckling though a little bit when I said Sergio's name.
Oh, very much so. We got to do the replay, but absolutely right.
Right.
Yeah, no, I didn't think Sergio would win.
Evidence.
I didn't think Sergio would win till that final putt went down into the hole, and he looked to me like he was gonna. Like I said, 5 or 6 times I said he's blowing it again. He's blowing it again.
I think you were in the closet pulling for him because you got the same kind of beard growth going on that he had.
Yeah, he did.
I was pulling for him. I was pulling for him. I was just, it's the type of thing where it didn't seem like it was worth getting too emotionally invested in Sergio until probably that eagle on 15. Then all of a sudden you were like, man, he really might be able to do it. Probably not, though, because there's a lot of golf left.
He's let us down a few times.
Yeah, and then on 16, that missed putt. And then Rose stumbled, and he had a putt to win on 18. He missed that, and you figured he's not going to win the playoff. But Rose kind of gave it to him a little bit.
Well, I tell you what, for the sake of our fantasy league, Sergio winning did us all a favor, because if Matt would have won another tournament, and then this one was worth 40 points with Justin Rose, he would have really pulled away from us. So I helped you guys a little bit by having Sergio yesterday.
Thanks, Brett.
I'm in fourth place, so
you're a team player.
It's almost a bigger story than Sergio winning himself.
Absolutely. Matt didn't win. He has Dustin Johnson. He wins 3 out of 3, so he wasn't helping us any.
So what about Rory? Rory seemed like he was in position too, and he didn't. What did he have in the final round? He didn't play that bad.
No, he actually did pretty good in the final round. He shot a
69. Yeah, shot a 69 in the final round. Finishing 6 shots back. But interesting fact about the career Grand Slam: anybody who's completed the career Grand Slam has completed the final leg in no less than 3 tries. And Sergio, our McIlroy's trip to Augusta next year will be his 4th try.
Oh.
So just a little numerology there. Although I don't believe, I think that McIlroy's going to win a green jacket eventually, especially considering how young he is. We could be looking 20 years from now. He'll be Sergio's age. So that probably doesn't mean anything, but it's interesting to think that anybody who's won that career Grand Slam has only taken 3 times on the final leg, generally because you have that period of real dominance for most golfers is usually 4 or 5 years, maybe, whether you're Nick Faldo. Paul Azinger had a nice little run, and now he's not a career Grand Slam guy, but it seems like unless you're a Tiger Woods or a Jack Nicklaus, you play your best golf, like world class, for 3 to 5 years, and then it's just you lose something.
Yeah. Well, the other guys come along too that make it more difficult. It feels like you have, and I could be totally wrong on this, but it feels like you have so many more that could just win at any time, any tournament, not just a regular tournament. Right. And there's 20 some guys you could list right now. You say, yeah, he could win a major, right. And then there's guys that are out there that we don't even think about that have come in top 10s and top 5s recently to kind of make it a little not. Tiger was just Tiger.
Well, that's what I'm going to ask you. Oh, it is. It's amazing the depth of young players and older players that are still highly competitive. If Tiger was in his prime now, would he have been as dominant as he was in the late 90s, early 2000s? Would he?
I truly think so. I think he's like a half a shot better each round than everybody. So you win by 2, you win by 3 type thing in his prime.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think he still would be the best, but I think that the quality of player is so much better now, mainly because of how good he was. He set the bar higher. So if you put him, and it may not have ever gotten this way if he wasn't so dominant when he was, but if you could just magically throw him in the field now, the Tiger of 1999, would he have won this Masters by 5 or 6 shots or not? I don't know.
Well, one thing is, back then I think there was a lot of intimidation by him over the other guys.
Intimidated him.
And now this group, Tiger aside, I don't think any of them are intimidated by the others. Maybe exception of DJ and Day's length off the tee. I don't really think that they're intimidated against one another. They're all buddies. And Tiger had a few guys he hung with, but not really. Right. They weren't all buddies in that run either. So I think there's a lot less of I don't know, maybe there is a less of an edge to these guys, right. And that killer instinct that he had, because he just didn't care who you were. He just was going to go beat you by 10 shots.
Yeah, good point. Interesting thing about Russell Henley, he wins last week. He comes out and shoots a final round 69 to grab a share of 11th place. exempt for next year.
Yep.
So a guy goes from he was the last guy in the field, as of, if you go back 10 days ago, he wasn't even going to be in the Masters, wins, and then finishes top 12 for the exemption. You got to be top 12, so he barely snuck in. So he already now knows he's coming back next year to Augusta no matter what. So good for Russell Henley. Stuart Hagestad, the 27-year-old Mid-Am champ, which I got a problem with the Mid-Am being so young. I mean, why isn't a 27-year-old just playing in the Am? It seems kind of crazy. You would think the Mid-Am would be like 32 to 45 or something, or 35 to 50. I don't know, but that's another story for another podcast. But
write that down.
He won a mini tour event. What was it? A few weeks ago. And had a chance to accept a cash prize, but chose Script instead, to Pro Shop Script credit, to maintain his amateur status. And it's a good thing he did, because we wouldn't be talking about him if he was competing as a professional. So,
not to mention how much free crap's he going to get from that Pro Shop.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It was a mini tour event. Who knows what the purse was, but it probably turned down a few $1,000s.
Yeah.
I don't know what mini tour it was, but
a couple nice shirts.
And then we had this youth movement in the majors. Now, all of a sudden, the last three majors have gone to Henrik Stenson, who's 40 years old, Jimmy Walker at age 37, and Sergio at age 37. So experience matters. I think that's kind of nice. And Sergio's victory now raises the question, who's the best player now yet to win a major?
Lee Westwood.
But he's the best player now.
Yeah, I mean, you could say that the career that he's had and the close chances, 42 pro wins, 18 top 10s in majors, 3 runners-ups in majors. So you could say that he's, over time, the best player to never have won one. But he's not better than Hideki Matsuyama right now.
No, but I think if you, Sergio, is Sergio the best player now? 3 days ago, when he didn't have a major, he was the best player to never win a major, right?
Right.
So that's where I'm going with it. I'm just looking at the total body of work.
It's just how you define the best player never won, that's all.
Yeah.
Because I agree. I think Matsuyama's the best player right now who doesn't have a major.
He's ranked 4 in the world.
But, Westwood's body of work been very, very good, and he's been in many, many majors, never cashed in, similar to Sergio.
Correct.
All right, and
I mean, we're not talking about Hideki yet, saying, "Wow, I can't believe this guy hasn't won a major yet."
So if you look
18
at the
major appearances though for Hideki, and he's only 25 years old.
Right, he turned pro at 12.
Right, so we don't put Justin Thomas or John Rahm into this mix yet, because they haven't had enough chances. Right. Hideki's had 18 chances, so you can tell my vote for this would probably be Hideki. But you got Westwood, you got Brandon Grace, Ricky Fowler is probably the popular choice too. Patrick Reed, no top 10s in 13 major starts. Matt Kuchar, at age 38. Brooks Koepka, who you might not think of until you realize that he's got 7 top 15 major finishes since 2014. And so those are all the candidates. My vote goes for Hideki Matsuyama, though.
I don't know if I'd even look at those guys in their 20s yet. It's just too soon. I mean, I guess you were probably saying DJ last year, and maybe you were saying DJ last year if we looked at it at that point. But
Stenson and DJ last year both were contenders, and they got off that list pretty quick.
Right, and before Mickelson won his first, how old was he? He was in his 30s. He was 32, wasn't he?
I think he's 46 now, isn't he? He's Nicklaus's age, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So he won in 2004, 2005, 2003 or 2004 for Augusta.
Yeah, he's been early 30s, yeah.
So that's where I kind of look at it. These guys are too new for me to think in that regard. But I guess if you're just saying the absolute best player right now this year, Matsuyama makes sense. He's a really good stick.
And, of course, Westwood made his annual appearance, in contention for a little bit on Friday.
Yeah.
It's almost comical with him.
I think his best opportunity is more of a U.S. Open type where even par is the score-ish.
Right.
Not something that's going to be 20 under or, in this case, only got to 9. I just he seems to be more of a par machine than a birdie machine.
You mentioned the winning score of 9. Jordan Spieth, I think it was after his second round where he got back into contention, said, I'm not worried really about where I am on the leaderboard because I know that at the end of the day it's probably going to be, 9 or 10 under or high single digits, he said. And he goes, I can get there. So he was thinking right. He just couldn't write the check.
It's a 72
he couldn't cash
tournament.
the check,
That's what they look at.
Yep.
Until I'm done, I'm not out.
Yeah,
right?
True.
So you say Westwood?
I say, as a body of work goes at this point, I'd say Lee Westwood.
And Brownie, who do you say?
I'm going to say Westwood, too, because I would have answered it that way based on the body of work last year. I'll answer it the same way this year.
Yeah.
So,
well, let's shift away from the Masters and the pro golf circuit for a moment because up here in upstate New York, it was 80 degrees today.
Yes.
And finally, it's time to start thinking about the new golf season. And most golfers, whether you're a once-a-week league golfer or you play 3-4 times a week, you say to yourself heading into the season, I'm going to try to focus on this or that this season to become a better golfer. Or maybe it's not even just become a better golfer. Maybe it's just to enjoy yourself more. But whatever, you come with a couple things early in the year and you try to stick with that. And so my personal focus this year heading into the season for my game is I want to swing at 80%. I want to be Freddie out there. I don't want to take any of these big rips trying to get extra yards. I don't want to take a lower club and swing it as hard as I can on a par 3. I want to just stay under control. Mainly because I think that's looking just back at myself in some of my rounds. You don't hit that many bad shots when you're swinging at 80%. They might not go as far, but they're not going left or right. They're generally, so that's my main focus. And then on the greens, I think last year and over the years, I start to get a little too caught up in the line and hitting the ball right on that line that I choose. I want to take a whole putt approach on the greens this year. I want to feel like I'm lined up, but not be precise about it. And I want to think about not getting the ball on the line at the right speed, but I want to think of getting the ball going on the speed and line that I envision for the whole putt. And that might be confusing a little bit the way I'm putting it, but don't just think about that moment of impact, but think of the ball halfway there. Think of it when it goes in the hole, the whole putt. You understand?
Yeah.
Or am I crazy?
Oh, you're crazy.
Well, you're crazy.
Yeah, I mean,
right.
That doesn't have anything to do with your philosophy.
The jury is unanimous on that one.
Yeah,
no, it makes sense. That's a good idea.
The whole putt. You can't pick the right speed in line without thinking about the whole putt. And so I found that I get wrapped up in that moment of impact at the ball and getting it right on the exact line. I gotta loosen up. I just, when I take that putter back, I'm seeing the whole putt as it goes through. I want to commit to that for a while at least, and then after a few 3 putts, I'll be. But the 80% thing and the whole putt thing are the two things. What about you guys?
Well, I think for me, we got to play yesterday, and it was great to be back out there. And with my thing this year, I think is really going to be focusing on and staying in the moment with the second shot. I find a lot of the times that I'll hit a good drive and then I'll get to the second shot, and if it's a little longer iron, my mid irons really are the ones, 5, 6, 7. Just staying with it, staying down on it, and making solid contact all the way through it. But more importantly, staying focused on that shot. I seem to lose a little.
You're excited. You hit a driver in the fairway. Right. You're like feeling good, and then next thing you know, you're in the water.
Right, exactly. So it's or even hitting it thin and just not getting it up there, up around the green at the least. So I think that's that one thing I want to focus on, and the other thing is getting my kids out on the golf course more. It's different than our actual game, but
that's what I'm looking for.
Took my daughter to get her first set of real clubs today. It was so nice out, and she's been asking about them, so I said, let's go get it done. So
that's great.
Now that we're getting into this type of weather, she's ready to go. My son's ready to go, so I want to get them out there a little bit more than we did last year.
Now, Brownie, you won the club championship last year, so you probably don't want to change anything.
Well, there's always things that can be changed or improved, so that's good. But So I got a couple things as well. Most of it circles around wedges. My chipping is overall a weakness from, say, 10 feet off the green, 20 feet off the green. And I've tended to always have a kind of a handsy approach to that and try to get a lot of spin on the ball.
Yep.
And, when you're sharp, it's great, but you're not always sharp. And last year I played a lot of golf with a lot of different people, but I thought the guy that was chipping the ball the best at our club last year was Ed Boudreau. And he tended to, thinking back how I saw some
He's
of
the
his
guy you
great chip
beat in
shots.
the championship finals.
Right, but not...
Interestingly enough, and not to beg on Booty, but that match swung on the 15th and 16th when he did not get up and down with 2 chips.
And I was standing there knowing I'm in trouble on those 2 chips because he had been chipping very well.
Right, you're right.
Okay.
You had been.
I played with him one night on a Wednesday night, and on the 18th hole he missed the green to the right, about green high, and the pin was way left. And his chip shot, when he flew the ball in the air, it wasn't terribly high, but it barely carried to the green, and he actually holed out for eagle. I would have taken that thing, and my approach would have been a whole lot higher and try to put some spin, land at 5 feet in the pin and put some spin on it. But that night I reflect back, and he chipped 3 or 4 times like that, many times. And I talked to him. I think he uses a 52-degree wedge, where I would have gone with a lob wedge.
Yeah.
Now, he might have used a 50, but it's in that gap area.
Yeah, he's keeping it lower and letting it run.
So, yeah, and I'm not good at that shot. And so for everybody's best golf opportunity would be to learn how to chip the ball very, very well.
Yeah.
Because people who chip well and putt well last an awful long time in the game.
Well, you're never far away from par if you can get up and down from around the green.
No doubt.
And the other thing is I just want to, like from a 100-yard shot and in controlling the trajectory so that you can better control the distance you fly. Because I was tending to get a little high with some of them last year. Okay, too high, and then you get either a balloon or you get a home run.
Yeah.
So, but the biggest opportunity for me is 10, 20 feet off the green, 5 feet off the green, what club to use.
And I've gone back and forth on that over the years of using one club, using 3 or 4 different clubs. But I think, and a lot of it comes to the amount of time you have to practice. I think it's difficult to practice with 5 different clubs and have all those different kinds of shots unless you can really spend at least, a couple hours a week, practicing that. So I've lately, especially, and for most of my life golfing, I'm gone with just one wedge and I just use it. But I can still hit a lot of different types of shots with that one club. And I think it's especially for newer golfers, and there's a couple guys I play with who aren't necessarily new golfers, but they've never really tried to elevate their game, to be able to shoot in the 70s a little more consistently. They're high 80s guys, a lot of them. And they just have one standard go-to around the greens. And, if you put a bunker in front of them, they're lost.
Yeah.
It's so I think it helps to just be able to play a variety of shots no matter what club you use.
Right.
So I just wanted to grow on heading into the year, get some variety in your short game.
That's right. Spice of life.
So we made our picks last week, and Rhett picked Sergio. So he's got 1 win so far on this podcasting season. But now we head to the HBC Heritage, Harbortown Golf Links, shortest course on tour at 7,099 yards. Pete Dye, Jack Nicklaus design, and narrow fairways, small greens, big contour on the greens. It's a little different looking course than a lot of the courses that you play. I really like it.
Tight.
I think it's a nice follow up to the Masters because it still feels you're down there. You got the iconic lighthouse.
Yep.
Right.
So a lot of times you can have Masters fatigue at the next event but I'm interested in the Heritage, and it usually provides some pretty good drama. So
get the tartan jacket.
Yeah, that's right. They get their
jacket.
another jacket. So since you won last week, Rhett, you'll go last.
Okay. Are we picking 3 this time, or are we just going to pick 1?
I don't even know who's in the field to pick
I think we'll pick 3. You got a list on here of a bunch of guys, so they're all in bold to make it easier. So let's, that's true too.
We drafting, or are we picking on just who we think's going to win?
Let's get 2 guys.
All
the more guys we pick, the more chances we got of getting right. You know,
very true.
There's only 144 in the field.
Yeah, we should pick 12 or pick 30 each, 30-round draft. So you're going last. I went first last week and picked DJ. That was a good pick. And so Brian, you go first. We'll go around this way.
All right. I will take Brand Snedeker.
He's won there before, hasn't he?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. Who's the defending champ? Brandon Grace, right?
Yep.
Man, guys usually don't repeat on tour like that, although it does happen. Grace didn't play that great this week. Kuchar's hot. I'm going with Brandon Grace.
Wow.
All right, I'm taking Kuchar.
Okay. Now you can go ahead and pick again.
So Brandon Grace rented a house that's got 3 steps, and he's going to wear socks to go down to the car.
Is DJ healthy? Is he playing? Well, I'm not taking Danny Willett because I don't think he'll ever win again. But I'm gonna go with Henley.
Russ Henley, huh?
Yeah, he seems to be playing pretty well. So go with him.
You go, Jim.
Okay. I'll go with oh, jeez.
We're on pins and needles here.
Yeah, I wish I had a bigger list of guys. I'm trying to think of I don't know, is John Rahm even playing? You'd think he would.
We're gonna have to get on the producer of the show.
Give me Mark Leishman.
All right.
I'm going with an Australian and a South African in South Carolina.
Oh. I'll take a chance on this guy being in the field. I'll take Jim Furyk.
I can give you info on it here in a second.
And if he's not, I'll still take Jim Furyk. I made the pick. Card laid's card played.
That's true.
Where's Furyk been lately?
Well, he wouldn't have been in the Masters. He wouldn't have.
Right.
Because he didn't.
But did he play in Houston? He didn't play Shell Houston Open, did he?
He played in that match play.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah,
he did.
Where is it? Okay, here, let's see.
But since the Heritage moved into the Postmaster slot in 1983, just 6 men have won without spending the prior week at Augusta. 4 of those come in the past 11 years. They'd be Aaron Baddeley, Boo Weekley, Brian Gay, and Carl Pedersen. So, a little Heritage fact
Davis
for you
Love
there.
always did well there, and he always remarked when he left Augusta and went to Hilton Head, he prepared so well for Augusta. He was very prepared to play there, and of course then he was calm.
Yeah, right.
He won like 6 times probably.
And he's in the field this week, Davis Love, and that's the type of course that he could still get it done on.
I'm reading the power rankings here for the Heritage, according to PGA Tour. I'm not saying anything, but Kuchar and Henley are 1 and 2. So.
Oh well, good drafting.
Got Perez, Kisner, Donald, Hott. There's a lot of guys we could have picked.
Well, Pat Perez and Kisner are good picks, but Luke Donald's 5th in the power rankings. I had a Brandon Grace.
Yep.
Perfect golf course for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, short. That was very tight. Kevin Na, Hadwin, Keimer. That's the top 15. So we did all right.
Yeah, we'll see how it plays out next. We'll see if somebody gets a win to pull even with you on the season. So, looking at the podcast coming ahead here, we're off next week, and then we come back on April 24th, where we'll the Heritage will have been played in the Texas Open coming up that weekend, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then May 1st we're off because this whole studio is moving to a new studio. And so that's going to take some time.
GolfJ.com studios are moving.
It's going to be great. You guys are going to like it. And then we come back on the 8th of May with our Players Championship preview, which is pretty cool. Now, keep in mind that in a few years at this point, we're going to be talking about the PGA Championship probably coming up before the U.S. Open. So that'll be different.
That's a topic unto itself.
I kind of, what I kind of like about it though is that it doesn't feel like the best major, so it shouldn't be the last. Like it's the universally regarded as the least coveted major, right? So why would it be last?
I'd like to, although the tradition of Father's Day is the U.S. Open, but I'd love to see that one be the last one. Because, if you end, I just don't like ending the major season with the Open Championship in July. I just think it's too early.
Yeah, I do agree that it feels like it's going to be too early. But one of the reasons they're pulling that back is to get it right away from football season, even though that in August it's never played during football season, so I don't know why they're even saying that. The PGA Championship never conflicts with football season.
Like 2 weeks before the season starts.
But, the preseason football is popular. Football, everybody loves it.
Sounds like it's probably a lot to do with the players, too, just not wanting so much congestion in that last few weeks.
Not being able to take time off and then go to the FedEx.
The FedEx Cup playoffs. Because, more that's gained a lot of momentum, too. I think the more and more now, those guys like playing in that. So it means a lot more to them than it did 10 years ago when it first started out.
Sure, if you like money.
Well, yeah, they all love money, so it makes a big deal. But I think they all would also love a couple weeks off before they go into that grind of 4 weeks, because then every year it's either the President's Cup or the Ryder Cup right after that. So, the guys, for the most part, the guys that are in contention through 3 or 4 of those FedEx Cup tournaments are playing that following week or 2 weeks later in the team competition. So there's a lot going on those last few weeks. Then there's also a World Golf, the Bridgestones in that window as well right before that. And then, so like you said, it does make sense to move it away from there. And I guess there still is a lot of good golf to be played after the Open Championship. It just feels that, it'll take a while to get used to it, I guess.
Well, instead we'll have the Players' Championship coming up in a few weeks, which is great. The Memorial, these are all great tournaments leading up to the U.S. Open. We've been used to it being a certain way, but so it'll be interesting when they see if they do switch it up. But, I guess with just a couple minutes here left to go, I always get a little sad at the end of the Masters, because it's just, you're not going to see it for another year. It's so great. I mean, everything about it.
Quick week.
And so, and it's just, I thought this year, and it might be, Brian, like you said, because more cameras and the ever-improving coverage, but it just seemed like it was extra beautiful out there, and there were just so many storylines. And I will say this, I wanted to say this before we got out of here. Another great thing about golf that's unlike any other sport is that when you interview these guys, they're really telling you their thoughts, and they're pensive. They think about and you get a look inside what's going on in their head. Any other sport, in a post-game interview, you get a canned response. Well, golfers really bare their souls in these interviews, and it's unbelievable to watch at
this tournament. Even at the other majors, none of them put as much thought into the other majors as they do to this one.
I agree.
They all have to want to be at this tournament. None of them make any as much a big a deal as like Henley winning last week, getting him into the tournament. Right. I mean, that's you talk about it at the fall series when they start the season up at the end of the year, technically starting the season. Guys winning tournaments at that point are first-time winners. I'm in the Masters now. I mean, there's nothing more that they want than to play in this tournament at least one time in their life. So everything they do going up to this week, and whether it's their preparation playing-wise or what their thoughts and what they feel about this place, it's just there's nothing like it.
Right. Well, this tournament's at the same site, so there's an awful lot of history, and we all see it on the Golf Channel. They replay everything that they got coverage of, so they walk in knowing Gene Sears made double eagle and 15, right? They know that, for example. So I think that adds a lot to the lore of Augusta in the tournament. That this is the one overall. They're going to tell you this is the one I wanted to win if they won one of the 4, but truly this is the one they want to win.
Yeah. I think absolutely. Some of the European players have trouble not saying the Open.
Yep.
Yeah. But I think the fact that they come over here and win at Augusta on American soil means a lot to them too.
Sure does.
So we'll see what happens next year at Augusta, and we're going to take the rest of the year off. We're just going to do the Augusta preview and post game show. But no, we'll be back. We are taking next week off. We'll be back on the 24th. So until then, you can follow us online at thegolfj.com. Connect with us at Twitter, at the Golf J, on Instagram, at the _Golf J, and on Facebook at facebook.com. Golf J. All our episodes and the best of the wide world of golf on the web can be found at golfj.com. We'll be back in 2 weeks at 9 o'clock. Until then, hit 'em long, not often.